Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to tell you about how to stay grounded while overcoming overwhelmed. Do this when feeling overwhelmed. There are moments in life when the weight of everything feels unbearable. The noise of the world is too loud. The demands are too many. The expectations, the responsibilities, the endless cycle of doing, achieving, and keeping up. It all becomes suffocating. Overwhelm creeps in like a storm, drowning your peace, shaking your foundation, making you feel like you're losing control. But listen to me carefully. You are not lost. You are not powerless. And you are not alone. Right now, in this very moment, take a deep breath, not a shallow breath, not a rushed one, a deep conscious breath. Feel it. Let it remind you that you are here now in this moment, not in yesterday, not in tomorrow, but right here. The mind loves to pull you into the storm of thoughts, worry, anxiety, doubt. It thrives on problems to solve, things to fix, futures to fear. But overwhelm is not caused by life itself. It is caused by resistance to life, the resistance to what is, the feeling that you must control everything, fix everything, be everything to everyone. But what if you let go, not give up, not collapse, but simply release the idea that you have to carry the entire world on your shoulders? What if, instead of trying to control the storm, you became the observer of it? Think of the ocean. On the surface, the waves can be wild, chaotic, unpredictable. But if you go deep, deep down to the ocean floor, what do you find? Stillness, peace. The depth of the ocean is always calm, no matter how violent the surface becomes. That depth exists within you, that space of stillness, of presence, of peace. It is who you are at your core. But when you get caught up in the external chaos, you forget. You identify with the storm instead of the stillness beneath it. There was a man who lost everything, his job, his savings, his sense of security, overnight. He spiraled into fear, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. But instead of allowing panic to consume him, he did something radical. He sat in silence. He didn't try to fix it immediately. He didn't rush to find solutions. He simply sat with himself, breathed deeply, and asked, "What is the next right step?" Not all the steps, just the next one. And in that moment clarity came. He realized he still had his skills, his experience, his ability to rebuild. He took one small action, then another. Step by step he moved forward, and months later he was in a better position than he had ever been before. Overwhelm is an illusion. It only exists when you focus on everything at once. So the next time you feel like you're drowning, pause, breathe, become present, ask yourself, what is within my control right now? What is the next small step I can take? You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to solve your whole life today. You just need to return to the present moment over and over again. Because life is not happening in your past. It's not happening in the future. It's happening right now. And right now you are safe, you are enough, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Let go of the storm. Sink into your depth. And remember, you are stronger than your mind tells you. You are more powerful than your fears. And no matter how heavy life feels, You always have the power to return to your stillness. Overwhelm is not caused by life itself, but by resistance to life. The more you try to control everything, the more you feel overwhelmed. Let go of the need to manage it all at once. Pause and breathe deeply. A deep conscious breath brings you back to the present moment, helping you regain clarity and calm. Observe the storm instead of identifying with it. Just like the deep ocean remains still despite surface waves, your inner self is peaceful beneath the chaos of life. Focus on the next right step, not the whole journey. Overwhelm disappears when you shift focus from everything at once to just the next small action you can take. Your thoughts create the illusion of drowning. Overthinking magnifies fear and stress. Recognize that your mind often creates unnecessary panic. Life is happening now, not in the past or future. The present moment is the only place where you have power. Stay grounded in it. You are always stronger than you think. No matter how heavy life feels, you have the power to return to stillness, regain control, and move forward. Overwhelm is not caused by life itself, but by resistance to life. There's a profound truth that most people never realize. Overwhelm is not about what is happening in your life. It is about your resistance to what is happening. It is the internal struggle, the mental fight against reality that creates suffering. Think about it. Life unfolds moment by moment, always moving, always changing, but the mind resists. It clings to control, to expectations, to the belief that things should be different than they are, and in that resistance, stress is born, overwhelm is born. Imagine a river. When the water flows naturally, it moves effortlessly, adapting to whatever comes, rocks, bends, obstacles. It simply flows around them. But when something tries to block the river, when resistance builds, pressure increases, and chaos erupts, the same happens within you. The more you resist what is, the more tension, stress, and anxiety you create. The feeling of being overwhelmed is not about the tasks, the responsibilities, or the challenges themselves. It is about the mental noise surrounding them, the inner voice that says, "This is too much. I can't handle this. Why is this happening to me?" That voice is a source of suffering, not life itself. Look at nature. The trees do not resist the wind. The ocean does not resist the waves. The seasons do not resist change. Life moves in cycles, in patterns, in constant transformation. And yet human beings, unlike nature, fight against the natural flow. They wish things were different. They try to control the uncontrollable. And this is what creates the feeling of being trapped, of drowning in life circumstances. But what if, instead of resisting, you allowed? What if, instead of saying, "This shouldn't be happening," you asked, "How can I move through this with presence?" The moment you stop resisting, overwhelm loses its power. It is no longer an enemy. It simply becomes an experience. And like all experiences, it will pass. Consider this. Have you ever been caught in a storm? At first it seems unbearable, the rain, the wind, the darkness. But then something shifts, the storm moves on, the clouds part, the sun returns. The storm was never permanent. It only felt overwhelming because you believed it would last forever. This is how life works. No moment, no challenge, no struggle is permanent. But when your mind resists, when it clings to fear and control, it makes temporary problems feel eternal. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, pause, breathe, accept, remind yourself, this is not happening to me. It is simply happening, and just like the river, you can flow with it. Overwhelm is not about life itself. It is about the fight against life. And the moment you let go of that fight, peace returns. Pause and breathe deeply. Return to the present moment. In the midst of overwhelm, when the mind is racing, when everything feels like too much, there is one simple but profound act that can bring you back to peace. Breathe. Not the shallow, unconscious breaths you take throughout the day, not the hurried, anxious breathing that comes with stress, but a deep, conscious breath, a breath that brings you fully into this moment. Right now, do it. Inhale deeply through your nose, hold it for a moment, feel the stillness between the inhale and the exhale. Now slowly release. Let it go. Did you feel it? That brief moment of presence, that is the doorway out of overwhelm. You see, overwhelm is not actually about the tasks before you. It is not about the responsibilities, the deadlines, or the expectations placed upon you. It is about being lost in time, trapped in a mental space that is either racing ahead into the future or clinging to the past. When you are overwhelmed, where is your mind? It is ahead of you, thinking about all the things that need to be done, all the challenges that may arise, all the possible outcomes that could go wrong. It is never here, never in this moment. But life only ever happens now. The next breath you take, the movement of your body, the sound in the background, this is reality. Everything else is mental noise, a projection of the mind. So when you feel overwhelmed, simply pause. Become aware of your breath. Observe it without trying to change it. Just watch. Feel the air enter your lungs. Notice the way your body responds. Let each breath anchor you in the now. Because when you focus on breathing, something happens. Your mind slows down. It stops running in circles, stops anticipating the future, stops replaying the past. It simply exists. And in that space, clarity arises. Have you ever noticed that the greatest wisdom often comes in moments of stillness? When the mind is quiet, solutions appear. When you stop struggling, the next step becomes clear. But you cannot hear that inner guidance when your mind is cluttered with fear and noise. A drowning person panics, thrashes, gasps for air. But what happens when they stop resisting? They float, they rise to the surface. Overwhelm is the same. The more you fight it, the stronger it feels. But the moment you pause and breathe, you create space. Space for awareness, space for perspective, space for peace. So the next time you feel like life is too much, don't rush to fix it. Don't feed the panic. Just stop, breathe, return to now. Because in this moment, in this breath, you are okay. And that is all that ever truly matters. Observe the storm instead of identifying with it. There is a powerful shift that happens when you realize you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them. Overwhelm feels heavy, suffocating, inescapable, because you believe it is you. You say, I am overwhelmed, I am drowning, I can't handle this. But who is the I in that statement? If you can observe your thoughts, then you cannot be your thoughts. If you can notice your emotions, then you cannot be your emotions. You are something deeper. You are the awareness that watches. Imagine a storm. The wind howls, the rain pours, lightning strikes. If you are caught in it, it feels chaotic, unbearable. But if you step inside, if you find shelter, you can simply watch. You no longer feel attacked by the storm, you simply see it happening. Now realize this: your thoughts are just like the storm. They rise, they move, they swirl in chaos, but you are not the storm. You are the one witnessing it. The moment you step back and observe, rather than get caught in the chaos, you create space. And in that space, peace is found. A great Zen master once said, let your thoughts come and go. Just don't serve them tea. What does this mean? It means do not engage with every thought that enters your mind. Do not invite it in, feed it, entertain it. Just let it pass, like clouds drifting through the sky. Overwhelm happens when you attach yourself to every passing thought, when you believe the mind's fearful stories, when you get lost in what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. But here's something important. No thought has power unless you give it power. Try this right now. Close your eyes and listen to your mind. Observe the thoughts that come. Some may be stressful, some may be repetitive. But now, instead of reacting, just watch. Imagine you are sitting by a river and your thoughts are leaves floating downstream. You don't have to grab them, just let them pass. Do you feel the difference? That space between you and your thoughts? This is freedom. This is the secret. You are not the storm. You are the sky. And no matter how wild the storm gets, the sky is never harmed. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, do not fight the chaos. Do not resist it. Instead, become the observer. Watch the thoughts rise and fall. See the emotions move through you like waves in the ocean. And remember, the storm is temporary, but you, the awareness, the presence, are eternal. Focus on the next right step, not the whole journey. Overwhelm happens when the mind tries to carry everything at once. Every responsibility, every possibility, every what if. It jumps from thought to thought, problem to problem, creating a heavy burden that feels impossible to bear. But ask yourself this: is it life that is overwhelming, or is it your thoughts about life? If you were only focused on what you had to do right now in this moment, would you feel overwhelmed? Or does overwhelm arise because the mind tries to take on the entire future at once? Imagine you are climbing a mountain. At the bottom, you look up and the peak seems impossibly high. If you focus on the entire climb, on every step ahead, on how far you have to go, fear and doubt take over. Your mind says, it's too much, I can't do this. But what if instead you focused only on the next step, just one step, nothing more? Now the climb is no longer overwhelming, because no matter how far you have to go, you only ever have to take one step at a time. This is how life works. Right now, your mind may be racing with everything you have to do this week, this month, this year. But what is the one thing you need to do right now? Not 10 steps ahead, just now. Because the truth is, you can never live in the future. You can only ever be in this moment. So why burden yourself with everything at once? Think about it. Have you ever had a difficult task, something you were dreading, but once you started, it wasn't as bad as you thought? The suffering was never in the task itself. The suffering was in the mental resistance before it. This is why great athletes, great leaders, and great creators do not focus on the whole journey. They focus on what is directly in front of them. One play, one decision, one brushstroke, one moment. There is a story of a man who lost everything: his business, his finances, his sense of security. His mind spiraled into panic, imagining worst-case scenarios. He saw himself failing, losing his home, his future collapsing, but then he stopped. He took a breath. He asked himself, what is the next right step? That's all. Just one small action, and from there another and another. Months later, he had rebuilt his life, not because he figured out everything at once, but because he focused only on what was within his control in the present moment. So when you feel overwhelmed, pause, breathe. Then ask yourself, what is the next step? Not all the steps, not the whole journey, just one. Because when you master this, you master life. And step by step you will go further than you ever imagined, without ever feeling lost. Your thoughts create the illusion of drowning. Overwhelm is not in the world. It is not in your responsibilities, your challenges, or the circumstances around you. It exists in the mind. It is created by thoughts, thoughts that run in circles, thoughts that convince you that you are drowning, thoughts that make you believe you cannot handle what is in front of you. But here's the truth: you are not actually drowning. Imagine sitting in a quiet room. Nothing is happening. The air is still. But suddenly your mind begins racing. There is too much to do. I don't have enough time. What if I fail? What if everything goes wrong? What has changed? The room is still the same. The world outside has not shifted. And yet, within moments, your entire body reacts. Your heart beats faster. Your breathing becomes shallow. Stress spreads through you. But why? Because your mind has created a reality that does not exist anywhere except in thought. This is what overwhelm truly is, not reality itself, but your mind's resistance to it. The mind creates a story of struggle, of insufficiency, of an unbearable weight. And because you believe every thought that appears, you feel trapped inside that story. But here is something powerful to realize. A thought is only a thought, nothing more. Just because the mind says, this is too much, does not mean you can't. Just because the mind says, I can't handle this, does not mean you can't. The moment you recognize this, you begin to break free. Imagine standing in the ocean. A wave comes, strong and powerful. If you tense up, if you fight against it, the wave will knock you down. But if you relax, if you allow it to move through you, you remain standing. Your thoughts are the waves. They come, they go. Some are gentle, some are intense. But they are not you. You are the observer of the waves, and no matter how strong they seem, they cannot drown you unless you fight them. So what can you do when your mind tells you that life is overwhelming? First, become aware. Notice the thoughts, but do not attach to them. Observe them as if they are passing clouds in the sky. Say to yourself, here is the thought that says I am drowning. Here is the thought that says this is too much. Just noticing them begins to weaken their power. Then ask yourself, is this thought absolutely true, or is it just a habit of the mind? Almost always you will see that it is just a habit, a conditioned way of thinking, not reality. And the moment you see this, the grip of overwhelm begins to loosen. So remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the space in which thoughts appear and disappear. And no thought, no matter how loud, no matter how persistent, can truly drown you unless you believe in it. The mind creates the illusion of drowning, but you have always been free. Life is happening now, not in the past or future. Overwhelm is an illusion created by time. It exists only when your mind is pulled into the past or projected into the future. But life itself, life, is always here, now. Take a moment and truly feel this right now, wherever you are. Pause, take a deep breath, listen, feel the air on your skin, notice the sensations in your body. This moment, this very second, is the only thing that is real. And yet, how much of your life do you actually spend here? Most people live in time, not in life. They wake up in the morning and their mind immediately drags them into the future, what needs to be done, what could go wrong, what is missing. Or they are trapped in the past, replaying memories, regrets, things they wish had been different. But the past no longer exists. It is a thought, a memory, a fading echo, and the future, it is not real either. It is only an idea, a projection of the mind, an imagined reality that has not yet come. So why do we allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by things that are not even real? If you pay close attention, you will see that overwhelm is never about the present moment. It is always about what your mind is telling you about the future or the past. For example, if you are sitting quietly doing nothing and you suddenly feel overwhelmed, what has actually changed? Has something physically happened? No. But your mind has begun racing, thinking about all the things you need to do, all the problems you might face. But in this moment, right here, right now, are you actually okay? The answer is always yes. The present moment is never overwhelming. It is only overwhelming when your mind tries to pull you somewhere else, into time, into thought, into illusion. A simple truth: you can never experience the future, you can only experience the present. And yet people spend their entire lives trying to solve problems that do not yet exist. They try to control a future that has not arrived. They worry about things that may never happen. And in doing so, they miss the only life they will ever have, the life that is happening right now. So what can you do the next time you feel overwhelmed? Pause, close your eyes, take a breath, ask yourself, where am I right now? Is there a problem in this exact moment, or is the problem only in my mind? Almost always you will realize that right now, in this very breath, you are okay. This is not just an idea, it is the key to freedom. The more you return to the present, the more peace you will feel, because life is never overwhelming, only the mind is. And the moment you step out of time and into now, the weight of the world disappears. You are always stronger than you think. There are moments in life when everything feels too much. The weight of responsibilities, the pressure of expectations, the uncertainty of the future, these things can make you feel small, powerless, incapable. But here's the truth. You are far stronger than your mind tells you. Think about the times in your life when you thought you wouldn't make it, when you believed the challenge before you was too great, that the pain was too much to bear, that you had reached your breaking point, and yet you are still here. Despite everything, despite the fear, despite the doubt, despite the moments you wanted to give up, you are still standing. You have already survived what you once thought was impossible. What does that tell you? It tells you that the mind underestimates you. It tells you that your thoughts are not a true reflection of your strength. Because every time your mind said, I can't do this, you did. Overwhelm happens when you believe the mind story that says, this is too much, I am not capable, I will collapse under this pressure. But has that ever actually happened? No matter how intense life has felt, no matter how many challenges you have faced, you are still here. And if you look back, you will see that the moments that once seemed unbearable were not permanent, they passed. You moved through them. And in doing so, you grew stronger. The mind loves to create limitations. It tells you that you can't handle something, that you are weak, that you are on the edge of breaking. But that is just a thought. And a thought is not reality. There is a strength within you that is deeper than the mind. It is not loud. It does not shout for attention. It is quiet, steady, unwavering. It is the same force that has carried you through every hardship, every heartbreak, every moment of fear. This strength does not come from effort. It does not come from fighting, from struggling, from pushing. It comes from presence, from realizing that no matter what happens, you have always been okay. Think of a tree in a storm. The wind howls, the rain pours, branches may bend, but the roots hold strong. The tree does not resist the storm. It does not panic or break. It simply allows. It trusts its own strength. You are the same. No matter how chaotic life may feel, no matter how strong the storm, your roots run deep. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, stop and remember you have faced storms before. You have walked through fire and emerged stronger. You have doubted yourself and still moved forward. The mind may say, I am not strong enough. But strength is not in the mind. Strength is in being here now, in knowing that no matter what comes, you will handle it, just as you always have, because you are always stronger than you think. The stillness beyond overwhelm. Overwhelm is not reality. It is the mind's illusion. It is the result of identifying with thoughts that pull you into time, thoughts that tell you stories of fear, lack, and struggle. But you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them, the observer, the space in which all things arise and pass away. The moment you step back and simply witness, a shift occurs. The heaviness begins to dissolve. You see that the storm of thoughts and emotions is just that, a passing storm. And you are the sky, vast, untouched, unshaken. So, whenever life feels too much, pause, breathe deeply, bring your attention to this moment. Do not try to solve everything at once. Do not believe every thought that appears. Just take one step, then another, and trust, because life has already carried you through more than you once believed you could handle. There is a deep well of strength within you, a presence beyond the noise of the mind. It has always been there, and the more you return to it, the more you realize overwhelm is never in the present moment. It is only in a resistance to it. So let go. Be here. And in this space of stillness, you will find something greater than relief. You will find peace